Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, Divine Soul Guidance, which is an extension of my online course, Soul Awakened, designed to walk you step by step through the stages of your spiritual awakening journey. To go deeper into today's topic or any other topics on my YouTube channel, please feel free to reach out to me via email or any of my social media platforms. I am happy to be of any assistance that I can. My mission is to help others like me who are on this awakening journey to receive the help and support they need so that they can move more easily through some of the challenges that the awakening process brings. Today's topic has been instrumental for me personally in becoming more independent and more empowered and to develop a strong sense of self-worth. In today's segment, I'm going to share with you how I healed my external need for validation and the steps I took to free myself from those unhealthy patterns. If this is you and you have struggled with codependency or seeking others' approval, then I hope that you will find this message helpful. My road to recovery began 4 years ago when I had this major wake-up call that led me on the path of healing and self-discovery. Through this wake-up call, I uncovered many things about myself and my past that I was previously unaware of, such as the fact that I had some pretty major childhood trauma. I was in a toxic and codependent relationship, and I was operating almost entirely from my wounding. I was miserable and stressed in both my marriage and my career due to my people-pleasing and perfectionist tendencies, as well as my lack of boundaries and incessant need to be liked and praised for my hard work and for what I did for others. I had completely lost all sense of self, and I was always looking to others to find my worth. I had a very poor self-image and never felt like I could do enough to earn other people's affection. Today, I want to share with you how I broke free from that destructive pattern and some of the things that I've learned along the way about how I developed those patterns in the first place. I want to begin by saying that a codependent relationship involves two people. They are both playing a part in the dynamic. Codependency is not limited to romantic partnerships either. It can also happen with parent-child relationships and friendships as well. The main characteristic that will help you identify codependency or codependent behaviors is an over-reliance on another person to find a sense of safety and self. We sort of lose ourselves in another, either by seeking their approval and validation or overly relying on them to meet our emotional needs. Oftentimes in these relationships, one person is the giver and one is the taker. Psychologist Dr. Exelberg explains it like this: codependency is a circular relationship in which one person needs the other person, who in turn needs to be needed. The person known as the giver feels worthless unless they are needed by the enabler, otherwise known as the taker. Some signs of codependency include people-pleasing, perfectionism, control, seeking external validation, over-giving in relationships, over-apologizing, walking on eggshells, being the rescuer or the fixer, being the peacekeeper, and compromising your own needs to meet someone else's needs. The reason this is so important to heal is that we cannot be autonomous and empowered in this state of codependency. As we're growing and advancing personally, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, being in these codependent traps or behaviors is going to keep us in a small and wounded state. Therefore, healing this codependent behavior is going to allow you to be more in your authentic self and more empowered so that you can be more confident in your relationships and avoid getting into the trap of overextending yourself or overgiving. It's also going to teach you how to learn to develop a sense of self within yourself that does not rely on another person. So until we can learn how to validate ourselves, be proud of ourselves, give ourselves the love and attention that we're seeking from others, we will never be able to fill that void. So this is crucial for us in general to have an overall sense of well-being and an overall sense of personal power. So where do these unhealthy patterns come from? They have their roots in trauma and oftentimes also in growing up with a parent who had some kind of addiction or mental illness. That doesn't always have to be the case, but it's more common than not. Somewhere in our childhood, from the people who raised us or those around us, we learned that in order to receive love, we had to behave in a certain way. We had to appease our caretakers' emotional needs. We had to be careful not to create conflict. And we had to earn our love through our actions or good deeds. Therefore, we developed these unhealthy ways of giving and receiving love as a survival technique, which we then carried into our adulthood. Mind you, we grew up thinking that our way of relating to others and forming relationships with others was perfectly normal, because that is all we had known or seen modeled to us. As we entered adulthood, we most likely were not consciously aware that these behaviors were playing out in our relationships. Not until some kind of wake-up call brings it to our awareness. In order to break this unhealthy cycle of relating, one person in the dynamic must choose to no longer participate in the dysfunction and instead find newer and healthier ways to find the love and validation they seek within themselves. Let me explain how. Healing from codependency is a process. Imagine the number of years you spent learning and practicing these unhealthy ways of searching for love and approval in others. It will take nearly as long to break them. Hopefully these tips can point you in the right direction and make the process of healing a little bit quicker for you. The methods I'm going to share today are, in addition to working with a therapist who can help you trace back the source of your patterns to the trauma that caused them, and then hopefully from there work with you to heal the trauma using some of today's best techniques, such as EMDR, brain spotting, hypnotherapy, and others, which are all minimally invasive and highly effective. 3 of the methods that worked best for me to break my codependent habits were: number 1, inner child exercises and meditations. Number 2, a regular practice of deepening my self-worth. And number 3, learning to set energetic and emotional boundaries. Let's briefly review each of these. So for inner child healing, you can look up on YouTube thousands of different meditations. If you look up inner child healing meditation and find one that seems to be a good fit for you, those are really effective. But the program that changed my life the most was the To Be Magnetic program. They have a series of different workshops or modules that you can go through, and 2 of the key ones that I think every person should do is the inner child workshop. It's called Unblocked Inner Child, the shadow workshop or module. And the inner child workshop in that program changed my perception of my childhood. I was able to go through the meditations and get into my subconscious really deep to heal some of the beliefs that formed as a child about why it was that I needed to seek validation and approval from others, or why I was a people pleaser and a perfectionist. And I spent, I think, about 6 months in that program before I really felt like I had freed myself from a lot of those patterns. The second method that's been very helpful to me is different ways of increasing my self-worth. Some of the ways that I have found this to work best are through affirmations, journaling, spending time with myself, and learning to value myself and pour into myself. Through journaling, I'm often able to work out a question. Like if I notice myself really seeking other people's approval for something that I did and they're not recognizing it, or I want them to congratulate me on an accomplishment, or let's say I just want to be liked. And if someone isn't liking me, then it's sitting with me in the wrong way. And I will journal through these different scenarios and be able to go back to my childhood and speak to my younger self and tell her exactly what she needed to hear as that little girl, so that she doesn't feel today as an adult that she needs to go out and find other people's approval or love. And that has been very, very helpful for me. And then just increasing your self-worth is a process too. It takes time, but the more you spend time with yourself, you give yourself lots of affirmations, you watch your negative self-talk, and you're really trying to reprogram your mind and the way you've been trained to think about your self-worth being based on another person. It takes time to train it to be based on who you are and yourself as a being, rather than on what you do or your relationship with other people. Finally, I have found that setting energetic and emotional boundaries has been helpful for me to create sort of a barrier between myself and another person. Growing up in the household that I didn't learn boundaries, and my emotions and my needs were enmeshed with my caretaker's needs. And so as an adult, I had to retrain myself how to separate myself energetically from someone else's needs and emotions and my own. Not to be the fixer or the rescuer, not to feel like I'm responsible for someone else's problems or situation. And it was a lot of training to change that mindset. But over the course of time and with my therapist's help, I was able to do that. Remember that your need for external validation came from your younger self not getting his or her needs met, and that you developed these patterns over time as sort of a survival technique. So when you think of it that way, remember to give yourself so much love and compassion for the way that you're now seeking that validation and love as an adult. Also recognize that you have the power to change that no one outside of you gets to define your sense of self or your sense of worth. That if you don't compare yourself to other people and you find the love and worth inside of yourself and you learn to be your own champion, then nothing anyone else says about you or no one else's opinion or beliefs in you is going to affect you from being centered and empowered in yourself. You no longer need to look to others to find your sense of worth, because you have the ability to be your own medicine and be your own healer. It starts today with taking some of the steps that I shared with you in this video to heal your inner child, develop your sense of self-worth, and set boundaries to protect your own emotional needs. That concludes today's episode. Thank you for listening. If you resonate with any of these patterns or you struggled with this topic of seeking external validation and you would like more guidance on how to move through that, I would be happy to visit with you through email or any of my social media platforms. Also, check out my Soul Awaken course, where I do dive into this topic as part of the healing and awakening process, and how to create boundaries and how to develop a deeper connection to self. And in that program, if you go through all the exercises, you will come out on the other side feeling much more empowered and in your own sense of worth. So the links are in my bio for the Soul Awaken course, and all of the pricing options are there. I wish you much healing on your journey. Take care and stay tuned for more content on this channel.